want to talk about communication, and I want to talk about how expectations are the root of all heartache in our relationships, whether that's work, friendship, anywhere. Now, when you first, you know, have a new friend or a new love interest, you get on so well. I'm sure you've heard the expression you get on like a house on fire. You love everything about them, they like everything about you, and it just goes so easily, right? You just like everything about each other. And then as time goes on, that changes. Now, it changes for a number of reasons, and I'm going to talk about that today. Now, what can happen is you can go from, liking everything about each other to getting frustrated, getting critical, and criticizing everything each other does. So, the woman can go from thinking, I've got this great guy, to thinking, what happened to the guy that did all these wonderful things? And the man can kind of think, nothing I do is good enough. And how did I end up in this relationship with this hypercritical woman in the first place? Now, that all comes when people get out of the honeymoon stage. And some of the ways that they go about communicating and some of the expectations that they have that aren't met. And what can happen with expectations is, this one isn't met, then another one isn't met, another. And what started off as a small issue become the biggest issue in the world. So it's really important to start off your relationships with good communication and see how you can make sure that you've got that strong, wonderful, healthy communication to start with. And look, maybe you think that you do, but I want to give you some scenarios to show you what happens, right? Now, there's a couple of things that happen. One is we tend to have really high expectations of the people that we're in our lives. The more someone knows us, the more we expect them to understand us, right? And if they really knew me and loved me, they'd know what was important to me, right? That's an expectation. If they knew and loved me, they would know this is important. How often have you thought that? I can't believe they did that. If they love me, they would know not to do that. Or if they love me, I would have been important to me. So there's lots of things that happen where people feel unloved. Now I want to give you John and Sarah's story, okay? Now they were in a relationship that had been going quite well. They had a dinner party coming up and John got sick and he couldn't go to the dinner party. So he just said to Sarah, hey, sorry, Sarah, I really can't go tonight. I'm really okay if you go because I know that you wanted to. And Sarah goes, okay, look, I need to see Michaela and Amanda, so I'm going to go. But I'll check in with you. I hope you're okay. She goes, and when she gets back home, he's really cold with her. For the next few days afterward, he's cold and snappy with her, and she really doesn't understand what's gone wrong. Now, what actually happened is John felt that if it was the other way around, he wouldn't have gone to the dinner party. He would have stayed home, watched a video, made sure that she was okay. And he really could not understand why she wouldn't do the same. So he was really disappointed. But can you see the problem in this? He expected her to think how he did. He wouldn't have done that, so he expected that she wouldn't do that. Yet she thinks and acts quite differently to him. And it didn't even enter her mind not to go. So he was upset with something that he wasn't clear about in the first way. So how could they have changed this scenario? He could have been vulnerable and said to her honestly, hey, Sarah, I'm not feeling very well. I know that you were looking forward to going tonight, but it would be really nice if you could stay home. Maybe we could watch a movie. It would just be nice to have someone around while I'm not feeling very well. And I hope that's okay with you. Now then, Sarah would have two ways of responding. Yeah, look, that's totally fine. I wasn't really that bothered about going tonight. I'd love to stay home with you. No drama whatsoever, no unmet expectations. Now, or she could have said, look, John, I really have to catch up with Michaela and Amanda because we needed to discuss this project that we're working on. But what I'll do is I'll just go for a little while and then I'll come home. So she could have done a compromise or could have said how important it was to her and she would check up on him. Now, why is this so tough for us to do? Because it's vulnerable. It's saying what you need, and the other person might say no. And that does feel very vulnerable, okay? But that's being open and honest about communicating what you want and what you need in that situation. Now, John did hesitate because he didn't want to appear that he was being controlling or telling Sarah what to do. Now, I want you to see in this scenario, he wasn't saying what she needed to do. He just said it would be really nice if you could. It would feel really good for me. So he was being clear about what he wanted, and then he left the decision with her. In the first scenario, he just told her it was okay. Now, women are often told that men speak directly, but in my experience, they don't either. There's times where they don't want to control you, they don't want to tell you what to do, so they're not clear. Now, again, saying what you feel and what you need is not controlling. And if you're in the beginning of a relationship and you continually stuff down your needs, you're not going to be happy down the track. If you can be honest and compromise about what's really important to you, you're going to be having a whole different relationship. And can you see the difference in that? Now, look, you don't want to criticize, undermine, or control. You don't want to lead with the communication like, you're always selfish, you never consider my needs, I don't matter to you. That's not the type of communication we're talking about here. It would feel really nice for me if we could have another drink before we move on to the next place. I'm really enjoying this venue, right? Or alternatively, you could have communicated, say if you're having a drink somewhere and your partner gets up to leave and you want another drink, you could go, oh my God, I can't believe you're just thinking about yourself and you're being so selfish and my needs don't matter to you. Well, that feels very different to I'm really enjoying your company. It feels really good if we could have another drink. There are ways of saying things that are not criticizing, they're not demanding, and they're going to get a better outcome from the other person. So I go with a simple formula. Always talk about I feel, I would like, not blame, not you always, you never, making it as a criticism or making the other person wrong. If you talk about how you feel, you can't be wrong about your feelings. Okay? It's a very different thing. And it's not about making the other person wrong and you right. I feel that feels good for me. That doesn't feel good for me. What do you think? It's a very different conversation that you can be having, that you're not making assumptions. Now, finally, what we can do in relationships is, say if we're out with our girlfriends and, we know our girlfriend's into health and fitness and we see her having a can of Coke, we don't pass judgment. It's not really our place to, is it? Yet if the person we're in a relationship with is into health and fitness and has a can of Coke, we could have a totally different approach. Can't believe you're failing and having a can of Coke. You're useless. You never get that right. We wouldn't do that to our friends, so why would we do it with the most important person in our lives? So the key, in conclusion, is to not assume that other people think how you do. They're not mind readers. They're not going to know what's in your head if you don't tell them. So it's really important to be vulnerable about what you want and what you need. And that is a game changer in your relationships. Now, the next thing is continually get to know the person you're with. You know, people aren't fixed, they change. Continually learn what they like, what they dislike, what stresses them, what helps them out, what they need to feel loved. And don't make assumptions or have these expectations, because you wouldn't do them in other areas of your life. Don't do it here. Or what's really interesting, you could be very successful in other areas of your life, maybe in business. You just go in and you nail it. You tell people what to do, they do it, it works for you. A romantic relationship or a friendship isn't quite like that. And you often will have to tailor your communication to the person you're talking about to make all the difference. So that's my short talk on communication. There is so much more to talk about in this area, but I think that's enough for one day. So, yeah, just be vulnerable. Talk about how you feel. Don't dismiss your own needs all the time. And, you know, that is the key to being able to be vulnerable in a relationship. Anyway, my name's Debbie Rivers. I'm a relationship coach, and if you're struggling with your communication, reach out. It's one area that I can work with you on to change the results you're getting. Thank you.